Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our Tech Minutes. We're going to continue with Microsoft Word today. So today's the ribbon and how to create a PDF from a Microsoft Word document. So the menu, or ribbon is what it's called now, is controlled by the tabs up here on the left, upper left. So Home, Insert, Design. Each of these tabs is like its own little manila folder. Each folder contains controls to either insert things, design things. The Home ribbon tab, that's the catch-all for things that you use the most. So your clipboard, your font, your paragraph. Each one of these has its own little subdivided box. So font, you can see that little gray line there. So clipboard has its own little box, font has its own little box, and so on. Paragraph, style. So if you ever are confused or forget what the little icon means, if you hover your mouse over it, it'll give you a definition. So this is a text effect. You click it, shows you what you can create some fun looking text with. You can create bold text, italicize your text, all from that control there. Paragraph, that's where you see the bullet. How you create a bulleted list. You click it, you start making your grocery list. The line spacing is here. So single spaced is 1.0, double space is 2.0. That can be a little tricky sometimes. So what I do when I am creating a new document is I always go to no spacing up here in style and then set my spacing to what it needs to be. I had a teacher once that brought out a ruler to see if I had double spaced things correctly. Hopefully they don't do that still. But numbered list is right next to bulleted list, and that is all contained in our paragraph. What was below our bulleted and numbered list is our aligning the paragraph. So if it's aligned to the left, it used to be called left justified, centered, right justified. It's all there on the screen for a new definition. This button here, that is a handy show hide option. So if that is off, you can see little backwards P is gone. That indicates a paragraph. So if you ever have a document that's off a little and you don't know why, click this little show hide button and you can see, oh, I got a paragraph there that doesn't need to be. And you can adjust your document. So on to style. Style, that is where you can tell Microsoft Word what you're working on. So if you're typing the title of your document, you can tell Microsoft that it's the title and a heading and a normal body of your paper. That's to help you create a table of contents later on. It's not necessarily needed if you don't need a table of contents, but it's kind of handy to just click a button and have it set to the correct font and indentions. Editing, right next to styles, you'll find find. So if you misspelled dog on your paper, you can find where you've misspelled it, and you could replace it with the little icon down below find. And selecting, if you want to select your whole paper, if you want to select an object, you can do that there. If you notice these little control buttons on the bottom right of each box, that's how you can open up a classic menu or a further menu. So if I had several copy and pastes, this would show a history of that. The font opens up the classic font menu from back in the day, like 90s and all prior. The paragraph, classic menu for paragraph. A lot of this will be repeated in further ribbons. Styles, you can adjust styles. There are a lot more style guides than this, but those are created down below, which you cannot see on the screen down below right here. Just clicking the X to close it. Okay, so that's the home ribbon. The insert ribbon is controlled same tab right next to the home ribbon tab. Pages, It's where you insert a cover page, insert a blank page. You can insert a table. If clicking on table gives me options of inserting a table with however grid size I need. If I need a bigger one than 10 by 8, I can click create 10 by 8, and then in the new extra ribbons created by having the table active, I can insert more to the left or right. Just all depends on my needs. So if I want to erase this table, I select it with the little rosary cursor there, like a compass rosary. Delete table. And notice that that ribbon is adjusted what it's doing. You can insert illustrations. If you want to know what they are, just hover over them. So picture, insert a picture. You can insert shapes, smart art. Smart art's kind of fun. It's how you can make a dynamic graph for a paper. Add-ins, that's things you buy. Like if you bought a little add-in for Word for your work, then that's where it would show. You can also directly post a quote from Wikipedia, even though your teacher probably told you not to use Wikipedia. You can insert a video. That gets tricky when you're printing a document. It'll just show the hyperlink for it. Links, similar. If you're going to print it, that's not going to help you. Header and footer. So that's how you get your name on every page, is with the header and the footer. So that's going to show on every page from here on. And notice that the header footer created an extra ribbon unique to the header and the footer. So let's get back to insert. Page numbers, if we needed to insert page numbers, a text box, and here is that word art, that classic word art. Notice it is extremely similar to what we saw on the home with our text effects. So they're slowly getting rid of it, or renaming it rather. You can also insert symbols with the insert tab. Insert an equation. So if you're working on a Pythagorean theorem, you can do that there. So that's the insert ribbon. Notice that it does not have the little controls on the bottom left. No classic menus for this ribbon. Our design ribbon. That is where we control how the heading, the title, the paragraph looks all together, pre-designed for us. We can also adjust the color of what we choose. Notice it took its time a little bit, but after a minute or two of using each one, it gets faster. Adjust our font throughout the whole document. This will affect whatever style you have selected. So if we click on this one and we change the font of it, from now on that font and any other font we choose on when this ribbon is open will be that font. So let's change it back to what it was. Paragraph spacing. Notice it's labeled for us. Effects, if we want an effect to be there for like our glossary, where they could click and the little arrow would show. A watermark. Fun to put confidential if you're making a paper. To remove it, just hit on the design tab, watermark, remove watermark. Our page color. This helps you design your document. It won't print out the whole page of that color. It'll always leave like a little margin for that printer. So it's always handy to use the color paper that you're going to use. So if you have a tan or a manila color, that your paper's already that color instead of having your printer print it. Now, page borders opens up a classic menu, so we can make it shadow. We can even create some custom. Alright, so now the layout tab changes the ribbon to the layout ribbon. So first off, margins. So how far your text goes to the edge of the page. So narrow goes a ½ inch of the page. Sort of self-explanatory there. Normally for school MLA style, it's 1 inch. Unless they've changed that since I've been in school. So orientation of the page lets you lay out the page like if you needed a flyer for a lost dog or anything like that, a garage sale. Size of your page, so 8.5 by 11 is standard, but if you are printing on ledger paper, you can change it so that you have the full space to work inside the document. So you notice that the ruler up at the top changed to 11 by 17 all the way down. So let's change that back to letter. So now you can also change the layout of your columns. So if you're writing like a news article or a report that needs columns. Section breaks. Now this is a little bit of a repeat from our insert. So page breaks are there, but did you notice that not just page breaks, section breaks as well? So like I said previously when we were doing the home ribbon, some of this does repeat. Line numbers. So when you're doing coding, this can be handy. It's not going to make the code runnable, workable for the machine, but you can type it out. Hyphenations. That's if you're running out of space over here with your words, you can set Microsoft to automatically hyphenate your words. Indentation space, that can be set by your writing style handbook. Arrangement, notice it's all grayed out because I don't have any objects to arrange. So if I had a picture, let's just insert a shape. So if we go back to our layout, see, they're not grayed out anymore. So I can make it to where it'll snap to certain positions on the page. I can make it to where the text will behave differently around the object. I can bring it forward, send it backward, all sorts of fun and handy stuff. If I want several shapes to be aligned all in a line, I can do that there. Format, even more controls for this object. Some of them are found here in the layout ribbon, some of them are found on the drawing tool ribbon. So our next stop is references. So this is where you remember from the home ribbon I had talked about table of contents. So if I had a whole list of headings and titles, I could click one of these and Microsoft Word would create a table of contents for me. Nice and easy, simple to do. You can update it as you go. Very handy little feature. You can insert your footnotes. Sometimes when you're first off doing a paper, just concentrate on doing the paper and figure out how to make Microsoft Word do insert footnotes at a later date, but it is there if you so wish to do it that way. That's for larger papers, not just your 5-page papers that you do. You can also have Microsoft Word manage your sources. So there are large products that you can buy to manage your sources if your career involves writing papers. But you can have it Microsoft do that for you. It would be saved to this document. So any movement of this document, you would lose those sources that you've managed. You can also do captions for your pictures, mark an entry, mark a citation. So that's our references tab. Next off is our mailing tab. Mailing, so you can create envelopes, labels. That used to be a separate product back when, but they included it in Microsoft Word now. Mail merge, if you had a whole table of Excel table of recipients, you can set it to where it'll create labels for each one pretty quickly. Notice all these controls are grayed out. It's because we don't have any recipients created, so there's no need for them to be controllable because there's nothing to do. So that's mailing. Not really useful if you're not in an office situation. Next is our review tab. The review tab has everything you need to do to review your document. So end of the homework time, you're trying to finalize your paper, check your spelling, your grammar, check your word usage with your thesaurus, check your word count. Now, this will give you a word count in the classic menu. Down at the bottom of the page, it's cut off on my video here, but at the bottom left of your page, you'll find a word count there too that updates as you type. Translate languages. This is so that you can tell Microsoft Word that you are typing in a different language. It'll check the grammar as such as it was a Spanish document if you selected Spanish. You can also have it to translate. It's not very good. It does its best though. Google Translate is a little bit more accurate, but it is there. And track changes, new comment. These two are sort of linked. So if you are writing a paper with some classmates, with some friends in school or at work, what have you, you can insert a comment. So you say, Matt Griffin, hey, you forgot to write a paper here, or whatever. That's where you would do this. Track changes. If I select that, any change I make is tracked. Big surprise, right? So there's a red mark to the left here on any change I've made. I can either accept it or I can reject it. Either way, the little pop-up will come out if there's nothing to check. Always unselect track changes so that any new change you make isn't tracked. So that's irritating. At the end of the day, trying to accept all the changes that you've made is not necessary. Compare. You can actually compare two Word documents. See if they're different. We were told about that in high school. I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was. But that was a way for the teacher to see if you'd copied anyone else's work. Down over here on the very far right, protect. So you can protect this document. You had shared this document with somebody, you can add a password so they can't change it. They can make a copy of it and make changes, but your version that you sent them, they cannot change. You can also add authors. So as Microsoft is getting more online, you actually sign in and you can create email addresses that are linked to authors and allow them to edit things. So now our View tab. So clicking that View tab changes the ribbon like always. So you can change the view of your document. You can make it to where it's in reading mode. You can change it to print layout mode, web layout mode. You can create a website, very basic website with Microsoft Word. Wouldn't suggest making a full website in Microsoft Word. Use another product for that, but it is there. Outline. If you had created Microsoft Word with all these styles correctly, with headings and titles and such, that will only show you the headings and the titles that you've created with your document. Guidelines. So it creates a grid. If you're laying out objects, pictures, it's handy. Navigational pane. This is handy if it's a large document. Everything is right there on your screen. You can search for things, see your headings, see how many pages you have, rearrange the pages even. And then our zoom. If you are late at night, you can change this guy to be a little bit bigger. keep that eye strain from happening. 120% is what I normally use when it gets rather late. This window, you can split this to where there's two Microsoft Word working spaces on the screen. Make a new window, split window, so you can work on two pages at once in the same document. This also keeps a track of what document, what view you're watching. Macros, it's a little complicated. We'll skip that for today. And properties for SharePoint, we'll skip that as well, since that's not a standard thing in Microsoft Word. One last thing we need to go over is our file. It's not a tab, it's not a ribbon. We call it our Backstage. So our Backstage has our info about the document, how long we've been editing it, words per page, all such. You can also create a new document, open a new document, or open an old document rather, save this document at a different spot. You can print a document, share a document, and export a document. You can also close it. This will keep Microsoft Word open, but it will close your document. So that leads us to that last portion I promised you, export in our Backstage. So File, gets us to this Backstage, export. This is where we get our PDF. So click Create PDF. It'll make that pop-up window appear. Where do you want me to send it? Just name it something unique, something you can remember, and you'll hit publish. That's basically it in order to create a PDF. Notice I can't make any changes here, so PDF is doing what it's supposed to do. PDF stands for Protected Digital Format. So you send someone your resume, they can't make changes to it. So that's it for episode 2. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe to us. See you next episode.